Tuesday, Michigan announced that Kirk Campbell will be relieved of his duties, or has been relieved of his duties as offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. Spent 3 years with Michigan, one as an analyst, one as a quarterbacks coach last year, and then OC quarterbacks coach this season. And look, you finish 111th in scoring offense, 128th in total offense, 130th in passing offense, 69th in rushing. It's not a surprise that a move was made here. I think a lot of us expected this to happen over the last several weeks. Michigan just lost a ton from last year's team on offense, but also did not play up to its standard. You started 3 different quarterbacks. It was kind of a mess at times. And you know, as Sherrone Moore put it yesterday, he said he had to make a move. I mean, you don't have to do anything, but it felt like that was kind of going to be inevitable. Kirk Campbell was great dealing with us. I appreciate him for, you know, everything he put into this. You know, I think you can appreciate that, what he did with J.J. McCarthy, who loves him, but Sherrone Moore will be looking for a new OC.
Yeah, and I'm going to stop short of calling him a sacrificial lamb because when, like you said, the numbers are the numbers, right? But man, did he have his back was against the wall. That offensive line didn't play well enough, number one. And it is hard to devise a game plan when even your really good play calls, and our Mr. Shark and not Tom documented this weekly in their breakdowns or analysis. He called some really good plays where you've got offensive linemen that don't know what the hell they're doing or are going the wrong direction or aren't holding their blocks, plays that should have worked. That's not on him. You've got receivers that are dropping balls. You've got quarterbacks that are throwing picks at a ridiculous rate. And again, I'm not blaming that completely on Davis Warren or anybody else. I'm just saying that's just the fact of the matter. Davis Warren hasn't played a lot of football. He was the best quarterback that Michigan had this year by far. And it was given the offensive line that he had to work with and the receiver room, he did the best he could, but no, he wasn't good either. And I don't think I'm being mean or rude saying that. I think it's just pretty obvious based on the numbers. But all things considered, when you put up those numbers, unless you exceed expectations, you're going to be the guy that goes. So I have nothing but good things to say about Kirk Campbell. He was always great with us in the media, and when he was put up, and facing the fire in press conferences, he answered every question honestly. He was down to earth. He was a class act, and wherever he ends up, I'm thinking it'll be the NFL. I think he's going to land on his feet. So we'll be watching him. I'll be rooting for him, just like I do every other Michigan coach that leaves this program and has contributed. And what I will remember about him is what he did with J.J. McCarthy and Team 145 and helping lead them to a national championship. He was a huge part of that.
Yeah, a lot of it last year, natural progression for a guy like J.J. McCarthy, just being as talented as he was. But, you know, you don't make those steps without a steady hand leading your room. And I think Kirk Campbell did an outstanding job. And that was kind of his wheelhouse. And remember this guy, too. He was someone who, Sherrone Moore said it either during the spring or sometime after he was hired, that the day after, or maybe it was even the same night they won the national championship, Kirk Campbell's in the building or wherever he was, watching film and breaking down film and kind of getting upset about the things that didn't go right. Like, it's a guy that, was always just busting his ass to the best of his ability. And listen, it's always been a business, but even more so now, this is a business at the college level. And the numbers are your resume. What you put on film is your resume. And Michigan should be better offensively than it was. I mean, you look at a passing offense that I think was 127 or 128 out of 134 teams in the Power Five. It's not good enough. And when you act and you make decisions with a lot of conviction, talk to him back at, it was either the Rose Bowl media day or National Title media day, when you would ask him about the QB situation. You'd ask him if J.J. McCarthy's successor was on the roster and if they felt good about it. He always said yes. And ultimately this quarterback room became, a manifestation of kind of what our worst fears would be. Davis Warren was a guy who can come in and run the offense and make some throws here and there, but he's on a good team of backup quarterback. Jack Tuttle was a 7th-year guy who hadn't been able really to catch on anywhere because of the injuries. And unfortunately, the injuries derailed his season here. Alex Orji is not a quarterback. Jaden Davis, maybe not as ready as you would think a recruit of his standing might be. So ultimately, that's you have to wear that. And the quarterback situation for this team, and I know they had issues on the offensive line. I know they had issues at wide receiver. But what happened at quarterback this year, which was the room he led, had ripple effects on everything else. And because he's the coordinator, he wears that too. And, you wish him well moving forward. But unfortunately, that's the nature of the business. And when you don't get results, you have to move on from good people sometimes. And that's simple. That's just how it is.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is, and partly where I feel bad for Kirk Campbell, is that, Sherrone Moore made him the offensive coordinator after this year, after last season when he took the job. And if he would have left him on as quarterbacks coach, he might still be here as just quarterbacks coach. But, you get elevated, you get more responsibility. I mean, of course, there are perks that come with that, including, nearly $1 million. But, I thought he did a decent job, with the quarterbacks, JJ, Davis Warren, specifically. And, it's hard to say exactly when you don't have the level of talent that you would want in that room, but they'll find somebody to fill both roles. Steve Kasula, tight ends coach, will call the plays for Michigan's bowl game as Sherrone Moore conducts a national search for Kirk Campbell's replacement. What do you guys want to see, or what do you think Michigan should look for in a replacement for Kirk Campbell?
Somebody who's had great success at the highest level with a dual threat quarterback and makes an offense better no matter who is on the field, being able to scheme things around your weaknesses. And I look at, obviously we all point to Ben Johnson in the NFL and how elite he is, right?
Just go get him.
That's what I said. Don't mess around here. And if they don't, that's a failure on Sherrone. No, I'm just kidding. That's obviously not true.
They'll have Andrew Babalola throwing passes by the end of the season.
Yeah, or catching. If he reports correctly, which, damn it, they did last year against the Cowboys and they got screwed. Don't get me started. But to me, that's what you need. There cannot be any more experiments, right? As Jim Hackett once said about the Michigan's head coaching job, we had Rich Rodriguez, we had Brady Hoke. We're done experimenting. We're going to get the best of the best. This is Michigan, and you don't hand the keys of a Ferrari to a guy who's been driving a Volkswagen, right? And say, well, let's see how you do with this one, kid. So go find somebody good who's got experience doing it, has had great success doing it, not a flash in the pan, not somebody that, say, 5 years ago had a really great quarterback and excelled, and then the rest of the time sucked, right? Go get somebody that is proven and that can do it. And it's up to them to find it. So everyone's asking me, who's it going to be? I like Jason Candle from Toledo. I think he's had some success there. Everybody points to bad things that every coach is going to have something on his resume that's not perfect, right? But there are coaches out there who have had proven success that you can find. That is your job to do.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, you kind of view it through the lens that Sherrone Moore said he would view it through, and that they want a guy that can be balanced. Listen, Michigan's never going to abandon the run game. Like Bryce Underwood's not, whenever it's his time to play, he's not going to throw the ball 50 times and they're going to run it 12 times. I will see where the run pass ratio is at because you have that weapon now, but you want a guy that has proved he can build an offense around those type of players, attract that type of talent, scheme things up too. I think that the personnel that Michigan had, was better than the numbers would indicate. Not that it was great, not that it had a chance to be elite, but I think that you could have done more this year with guys like Tyler Morris, who's in the transfer portal, Samaj Morgan, obviously the tight ends that you have. So you need creativity, you need balance. I used to be the guy that, I go back to when Jim Harbaugh flipped over his staff after the COVID season, and you're looking for a defensive coordinator, and all these names are out there like, oh, you got to get a guy like Will Muschamp and Derek Mason and all these big names. And no, you just find the best guy that can teach the game that fits these current players. Mike McDonald was that guy, and lo and behold, he's an NFL head coach right now. So to me, I it's hard to kind of put it in a bottle like that. I think that when you have a Bryce Underwood, when you have the sort of NIL backing that it looks like Michigan has now, this is an extremely appealing job because you're going to get yourself, 2 to 3 years of the number one recruit in the country. And if you're an up and coming guy, like I know Joe Craddock's name from Tulane has come up, you hit with a guy like that, you might be a head coach in 3 or 4 years. So I think it's exciting to know what the possibilities could be. Sherrone says he's going to run a national search. I'm all for that. Turn over every stone, make some phone calls to your former boss, get some input. But at the end of the day, you want to build this offense around what you want to be and what's going to make Bryce Underwood, and hopefully the next Bryce Underwood, whoever that might be after him, make this an appealing place that not only guys like that want to come play, but some of these top skill players too. And, so be what you want to be. Don't try to be what you've been in the past. I think that to a certain extent, Michigan fell into that trap a bit this year. Excited to see what he does. Because remember, this was basically a situation where, Sherrone Moore's the head coach, but this was almost kind of like an interim sort of staff that he had to put together because he was hired, just before February, after the hiring cycle, portal cycle, all of that. So I'm excited to see what the possibilities might be because there's no reason they can't go out and get his number one target if whoever that might be.
And I will say this, guys, I fully expect whoever it is, people to be bitching about it the way they bitched about Jesse Minter. And look what he did at Vandy, blah, 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 when Jim Harbaugh brought him in here and nitpicking. But you're right. It can't be, hey, I'm going to go get Byron Leftwich because he's a big name, because he coached Tom Brady 3 years ago and he's been out of the game since or something like that. That would be foolish. So here's hoping they make the right hire, not the hire that's going to win the press conference.
So, Anthony, you do think national search is a good thing, not regional or anything like that?
I do. I search the world. There might be some guy coaching 7-on-7 in Japan that might be the best guy for the job. Find him.
Zimbabwe.
He's already been eliminated. It's a national search. Sorry.
All right, smart ass. What's the next question? Next topic.
Yeah, I think that this is going to test Sherrone Moore's network. This is you do have the ideal timing here, right? You made a move 3 days after the final regular season game. This is when the carousel is starting to heat up. You're seeing other schools fire coordinators, make hires as well to their assistant coaching staffs. We've already seen a couple offensive coordinator hires around the country this cycle. So the timing's there. Who can you go out and get? And you hope it is obviously the right guy for the job, no matter who it is. But I would like to see someone with experience. I think that, when you had a first-time head coach and you paired him with somebody who doesn't have coordinator experience at the Power 4 level and really limited coordinator experience overall. I guess Kirk Campbell did it at a lower level for quite some time early on in his career. But at this level, I think that was kind of a dicey, situation. It was a little bit of a risk. And, so I think experience would be big, but, calling plays, coordinating an offense, that sort of thing. And we'll see. He did say, Chris, you asked him yesterday if there are more staff changes coming. He said, we'll see something to that effect. He said, not right now, though. So I would imagine for the bowl game, maybe they're set. And of course, there'll still be moves in, after that potentially. And maybe there still will be this month as he continues to evaluate. But I think he wanted to get that one done so he could start looking right away and have every possible advantage, which then puts the pressure on you to, hey, go get somebody very good for this job.
Can I make one final point on that too? If you hire a guy with experience or a guy that's been a head coach, that kind of expands your network too. And, he starts to have input on the guys that he knows are, qualified to do maybe some of the things you want to do. So
great point.
I'm with you at the end of the day. You put a gun to my head. I think experience and kind of gravitas is a huge thing for them.
Yeah.
But not,
and that qualifies at position coaches too. If guys aren't getting the job done, is he going to be a guy that looks to his friends and says, we need an upgrade here. And I hope you understand, right? Now he did it with Kirk Campbell. To me, that's not the only place they need to upgrade. And I'll stop short there, but they need to be better at different positions as well.
No doubt. So we'll keep monitoring that as December plays out and we see as they get closer to the bowl game and then after the bowl game as well, what kind of moves could be made.